All right, welcome back. This is our series where we're automating the deployment of code to an Azure app service using Azure DevOps. We've created a new project in Azure DevOps. We have populated Azure boards with work. We've completed creating some static HTML code, added lists, formatting, images, styles, converted it to HTML5, organized the code a bit. There's still some things like viewing the source code that we haven't gone through. We'll get to that later. We initialized a code repository in Azure repos. We have not done branch policies. I feel that's a little more of an advanced topic. We'll get into that later. We built a pipeline using a Microsoft tutorial, and then in the previous video, we created a YAML-based build pipeline and deployed our code. And now what we're going to do is we're going to organize our site to isolate the source code. So one of the problems we have is that everything in our repository, let me go to my repository, gets deployed to the website. So like these Azure deployed JSON files and the pipelines YAML, it just doesn't need to be there. It's useful and needs to be in our repository, but it doesn't need to be part of the source code that gets deployed to the website. So what we're going to do is we're going to modify our repository a little bit so that that stuff gets isolated. So what we're going to do, I do a list. There's all of our stuff. I'm going to make a directory and call it source. I'm going to move the CSS to SRC. I'm going to move images to SRC. I'm going to move scripts. We don't have anything in there right now, but I'm just going to move all that stuff to the source folder. So there's all the CSS images and scripts folders inside of the source folder. I am going to move the index.html file into the source folder, and I'm going to move info. So what we've basically done, move info into SRC. All right, so we've got the readme.md file, which is a markdown file that sort of describes our project in Azure DevOps. We've got our parameters file and the Azure deploy.json file, the templates that we use to deploy the infrastructure. We've got the Azure Pipelines YAML, which defines our build pipeline. And that stuff is separate and distinct from the code that we're deploying to our website. So now we can modify our Azure Pipelines YAML file so that when it deploys to the code to Azure, we are specifying that the source folder is the root folder for the code. So instead of it being everything in the repository, it's only going to be the contents of the SRC folder. And we're going to zip that up, and that'll be the contents of our website. Let's close that. In our PowerShell session, we're going to do git add star. So it's adding all the changes we did. Git commit -m add a message. Organize source code. And we're going to push. So now those changes have been pushed to the repository, and if I hit refresh here, you'll see everything kind of shift around. And so now we've got our source templates, our pipelines YAML, a README file that kind of describes what our website is doing, and then the source of our content is all here. And that is what will be deployed to the website. So now that we committed to the repository, pipeline should be running, and it is. I deleted the resource group test. I think it's called test 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So it detected that didn't exist. Resource group exists as false. So it created it. And now if I hit refresh here in Azure, there it is. And now it's in the process of deploying the Azure app app service plan based on the templates that we provided that are already in the repository. And it's now deploying the Azure App Service. Refresh, we should have a plan. There it is. And now it's deploying the actual Azure App Service. And then it'll configure it based on the parameters in the template that we have. If I pull up that repository, this is the pipeline, this old pipeline. Okay. So here we're going to go to the repository. We're going to look at the parameters we specified. And we called it core test 1, 2, 3, 4 and B1. B1 is the basic SKU. I've already used all my free SKUs, so otherwise we'd use F1. So if we go into this app service plan, look at the scale up, see that it is a B1 SKU. If we go back to the resource group, back to our pipeline, it is in the process of creating that app service, updated the app service configuration settings based on the parameters we gave it. And it should be completed very soon and deploy the code. And what we'll see is if I go into the the SSA. So let's open up the website real quick. I don't think it's deployed the code yet, so it won't render. We'll hit refresh in a minute, but let me pull up SSH real quick. Go back to this pipeline, still deploying. And there it is. App service is complete. Our website should be coming up shortly. More importantly, the SSH should be coming up as well. I'm kind of pushing this stuff a little bit from a time perspective. It's still building, so close that SSH session. Wait for the code to render. There's our website. Here's our info page with our cat picture. So moving things around didn't change anything. If we come back here and go to the SSH session, see that I do a list, cd to site, wroot. So notice we don't have any of our templates and the YAML file, just the content. That's what we were looking for. So there's nothing unnecessary published out here. It still works the other way around, but it just publishes information that doesn't need to be there. So organizing the site in this manner, having an SRC with all the details, you could call this folder whatever you want. You could actually spell out source. You could call it content. You could call it whatever you like. But the point is we've separated the content of the website from the actual folders, the actual deployment aspect. Got any value out of it, please like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much.